Hello, my name is Rashida Turner, and I'm a kindergarten teacher at Redwood Heights. This year, I've been participating on the Effective Teaching Task Force, and we're looking forward to working together with you to build the future of teaching in the Oakland Unified School District. The task force is composed primarily of OUSD teachers and staff, and all of our meetings have been open to the public. Our mission is to engage teachers and community members in a collaborative process to build a shared understanding of effective teaching in Oakland, and to develop a 5-year strategic plan to build a district that enhances and celebrates effective teaching. In an effort to do so, we have been meeting since last October to plan a series of engagement events that are taking place in February through April. But before we get more information on these events, let's hear from Superintendent Tony Smith and OEA President Betty Olson-Jones.
So at the beginning of the work last year, when we were thinking about how to reframe and create an identity for the district, we talked a lot about where should we center the conversation, and really thinking about effective teaching being at the core of what we do as a school district, and trying to understand a way to frame that with our teachers, and creating a task force to do that in the context of this larger redesign seemed like a really important part of the work. And so if we don't focus on the big central issue of how do we define and talk about high quality effective instruction, I think we could talk about all those other things of reform, but we wouldn't get to the really important core issues, which is what does it mean to be a great practitioner, and how do you support that, and what work do you do to name it and get better at it. Another part of the work for us was to say we need to do this with teachers. That so many times this work gets done by experts, by people who dipped in and then were out of classrooms, come back to this work to define quality from an outsider perspective. And I think we're trying to create a place where we say, you know, there are critical friends groups, there's lesson study, there are so many indigenous practices here, and so many practitioners that have a voice around their work, and we wanted to build that with our employees here. And I think the idea that Oakland can be a counterpoint to the national trend, which is to talk about some of the structural pieces only, about how do we evaluate, how do we work to get new, other, better, different teachers. We need to say, how do you name what good looks like here with your own folks, and then build a system that develops the capacity and capability to be a high quality, effective teacher in Oakland right now to support the children that we have. And I think that's a demonstration of being a very different kind of organization to get very different kinds of effects and impact for kids in our city.
Well, I have to admit we were really skeptical at first. Many of the teachers I spoke with were skeptical because they said, how is it going to be any different? Why are we doing this? Why are we defining effective teaching when we know that teaching is an art? But I think we decided to take it and give it a try and really look at what might happen. And along the way there have been some fits and starts, but I think what's really come out of it so far is that the people that have been involved, that have really been engaged, have continued to push that what we have to do is not look for some neat little definition of what makes an effective teacher, something that you can go into a classroom with a checklist and check off and then stick on a laminated poster on the wall. That's not what we need, and that's not what we want. So I think we've come closer and closer to seeing that what we have to do is understand what a framework is for effective teaching. Now we have that already in the California standards for the teaching profession as a starting place. Make that really Oakland's own. Look at what supports and conditions we need to be successful, because you can't just plop a teacher in a classroom and say do this and you're going to be successful. You need excellent leadership, you need support, you need time to collaborate. And then the third piece was really looking at what professional development would look like if we really did start looking within instead of going outside of Oakland to find the expertise. We've got incredible teachers in this district, and for years they have felt like they haven't been listened to. So I think as we got more involved in the task force and we started realizing that we are in something where teachers will be listened to. When we do our listening sessions, we're going to be listening for the voices of teachers, what they really want, what they need. So there is some hope there, and I think that all the teachers that have participated to date have felt that way and are excited about continuing.
The economic conditions we sit in, with the reductions and the consistent abandonment of children in California, that this might be hard for some people to imagine. Like, why would they invite me to share this practice when, everybody's getting, March 15th and all that? And yet, if we don't talk about what we want, I feel like we're running the risk of always losing ground. Here's our opportunity to talk about what we want to aspire to while these other things are happening. Right. So for me, that's part of the dissonance, is we have to continue to push forward and be and behave different, even though these local conditions and funding in particular is just unconscionable.
Right. With that as well, there's the national dialogue that I think we have to look at where we sit in that, because there really is a national dialogue to base everything on high stakes testing, to judge schools, students, teachers by those tests, instead of looking at the particular students, the conditions under which they're learning, the teachers. We have to really break from that dialogue. I think we have a real opportunity here to say that students are not test scores, they're living human beings with cultures and backgrounds and communities that are different. They're not all the same. We have an opportunity to break from scripted learning and scripted canned curriculum and really develop curriculum that means something for those students at this particular time. And we have an opportunity to break from the national dialogue.
Until we have other measures, this is what we are both federally and in our state being evaluated on, outcomes for kids. And so how do we do this work and build out and do what we know is a much fuller and richer experience? How is it that we can create the conditions for every child in Oakland to have access to both high quality teaching, have that experience, but also this much broader experience, while making sure, because, for example, urban districts are much more likely to be punished if we don't actually make the performance targets, right? So it's got to be, it's a both and, and how do you balance that? And I need help. I mean, I need, part of this task force also is about how to do that really complex work, because we can't not have that achievement given the current context, and yet we know that we have to do these other things.
I see it too often in the district and throughout the country that everything is in the service of test scores. If we can get everything in the service of the child and their passion, and how we develop that, like Montessori schools, they do that beautifully, project-based learning. I see wonderful schools in Oakland where you see a lot of project-based learning and real getting kids just to get excited about something. That's the way you get the other stuff in, and the test scores will take care of themselves.
So phase one, this creation of a strategic direction. We're in this design phase right now and a planning phase. Now, the result of this work will be implementing this plan and going forward. And I need the work that we do and agree to be grounded in the voice of teachers. I need to learn from you and take your leadership about how to do that well, authentically, and over time. I live here, I want to be here, and what we work on has to be what is ours. And so I will be continuing to turn to you to say, how do we get folks, what do we need to do and communicate, how do we support teachers to both share what they really think, and obviously my commitment to you over time is, regardless of what happens with the external budgeting, to continue to talk about the right conditions in Oakland to support and develop high quality, effective teaching. And I will really continue to work to be your partner and tell you exactly where we are and take your leadership about how to include and invite other teachers.
My commitment is that I will work to the best of my ability with teachers to really encourage all teachers to share their views, whatever they are, share their hopes, share their dreams, their frustrations, their anger, their feeling disrespected, all of the things that they feel, but also to come up with solutions. What is it that we can do together? What can we create together? I started on a note of skepticism with the task force. I would not be surprised if a lot of our teachers are feeling very skeptical. Where is this going to get us? How is it going to be any different? But I remain committed to trying to keep the voices coming in. Keep saying, if you're frustrated, if you're skeptical, say why and what could change that. And then I'll look to you to make sure that you're looking to provide the supports that you can and the conditions that you can, so that we really do have honest dialogue with teachers, with the administration. So we really, really want teachers to be involved. And again, if you're skeptical, and I say this to teachers out there, if you're skeptical, even more important, we really need you there. We want you to come with your voices. We want you to come with your solutions. We really want to hear the voice of teachers. I think that if we can get to the point where we have a space for teachers to say what's on their mind and then see there might be a way of working together, look at some of the models that do exist. There are plenty hidden away throughout Oakland. Look at those. Look at areas where teachers and their leadership are working together well. They're planning professional development together. Look at the Take One. Look at different models. If we can get to that, I think we'll be in a whole different place.
Yeah, I would love if teachers did step forward and said, I'll come and I'll bring examples. Here are the things that work. Here are the inquiry groups. Here are the ways that we look at our practice. Here's what good is. And bring it as, if necessary, as a challenge, as a celebration. We desperately need teachers to be framing what effective teaching looks like. And I do think it's a counterpoint to a lot of what's happening nationally, and we've at least created the place and the space and trying to open it, and we will not have done it if people don't come. So we desperately need people, even if they come with some trepidation, to give it a shot. And we'll try to make it the most clear, professional, thoughtful space we possibly can. And obviously, this will be the first one, and we're going to need feedback on how to do it better.
If you are interested in hearing more of their conversation, you can visit our task force website to see the extended footage. As they highlighted in their conversation, the work of drafting a 5-year strategic plan in the service of effective teaching hinges on our leadership. We know how busy we all are as teachers and how stressful these times are to be an educator in California. But we hope that you will agree with us when we say that teachers need to be leading the work of understanding effective teaching and of leading a district's effort to better support teachers in the service of students. We have already hosted 2 Teachers Talking to Teachers listening tour events and have multiple opportunities remaining in March, where we hope to work with you. All of these engagement events will lead to a teacher convention that will take place April 7th through April 9th. Each site will have the opportunity to elect at least 2 site delegates for the convention. During the convention, we'll be working together to synthesize the input from the various engagement events and to build a foundation for the 5-year strategic plan. Recently, the teachers on the task force were interviewed about this work, and this is what they had to say.
I think all teachers inherently want to be good at what they're doing, and I think what that ultimately boils down to is students' experience in the classroom, learning. And so to be an effective teacher, I think teachers want to know that they are actually doing what they pour their heart, their sweat, and their tears into, which is trying to get students to learn.
When the district comes through with listening to teachers and the supports and conditions that they need within their school sites, within their classrooms, this will kind of hopefully level out the playing field so that everyone has the same opportunity to be an effective teacher.
I think for too long we've not had a voice in the district, and I think if we look at the last Fact Finders report, where one of the big issues between teachers and the district was a lack of trust. And I think this task force absolutely starts to bridge that problem. And I think it's important for teachers to be a part of creating that discussion about effective teaching.
I know that the reason that I'm doing this is because I don't think that anybody ever asks us our opinion about what effectiveness. I think it's a politician, or it's a principal, or it's somebody writing a newspaper article that's telling us what our job is about, when we're the ones who are best qualified to discuss the nuances of our job, the complications of our job, and whether or not our students are learning.
What I hope to get out of this process is to really see teachers get involved in guiding our professional work, our professional lives. I think that too often teachers are looked at as the subjects of reform rather than powerful actors in school reform. And I think this task force is a chance for us to turn that around.
It matters because if we don't do it, somebody else is going to do it for us. And accountability for teachers and criticism of teachers is going to come from every angle. So if we don't start looking introspectively at what we do on a day-to-day basis and start taking charge of the work that's within our control, then somebody else is going to do it for us. Somebody else is going to define our career for us. So it's really about taking back what has been taken from us, which is the definition of our day-to-day lives.
There's like a goal of restoring the relationship between teachers and the district, and I think that there's been a history of a lot of adversary between management and teachers. And if anything, one of the things I would love to see come out of this process is faith restored in the process of collaboration, and that teachers and administrators and management can all feel like we're working towards the same goal of working with serving students in Oakland.
The task force is asking all teachers, regardless of if you're completely optimistic or pessimistic, to take seriously this invitation to lead. And coming together as a team of over 200 teachers from across the district to define a 5-year strategic plan, we have the opportunity to envision our future as OUSD teachers and to shape the future for all OUSD students.